And he's talking about potentially announcing a second run for the White House in 2024. There's also talk about a media empire that he would try to build. In the Washington Examiner today, there was an interview with the president, Jason, where he laid out what he said were his paths to victory, talking about recounts and how they're going to find Donald Trump ballots there and these states are going to get overturned. But NBC News called Arizona for Donald Trump. I'm sorry, for Joe Biden last night. And today on my air, during my hour, we called Georgia for Joe Biden as the apparent winner. Obviously, there's a hand recount in Georgia, but he's leading by many thousands of votes. If this holds, this map holds, it'll be 306 that Joe Biden was able to get, the same electoral margin that Donald Trump had in 2016, that his team kept saying was a landslide.
Right. Well, here's the thing. At some point, some newspapers, some outlets will eventually wean themselves off of the, Donald Trump cavalcade drug of asking him questions that we shouldn't be asking him anymore. It doesn't really matter what he thinks about who won, because it's obvious that he lost. It doesn't really matter if he wants to scream and yell about lawsuits that keep getting swatted down by flies by various courts, some with judges that were appointed by Democratic presidents, some with judges that were appointed by Republican presidents. I think that what has happened in many respects is, some outlets, and again, Washington Examiner tends to lean slightly right, some outlets are giving him this extended mourning period the same way that some of his staff members are, when really it's not necessary. And I'll also tell you this, Katie, because I don't think even the speculation, is he going to start a media empire? Is he going to run for president again? Have we seen any indicator that Donald Trump has the kind of discipline that he could put together an entire presidential campaign again in 4 years, given his inability to stay focused on anything? He pretty much won his campaign in 2016 because he had outside assistance. He was running against somebody who was very unpopular. I don't think he has any future above and beyond getting kicked out of the White House and fighting off a bunch of lawsuits because he no longer has income. Anything else is just wistful speculation.
I might push back on that. He grew his vote total from 2016. He added more Donald Trump supporters to the mix in 2020. He's got quite a hold on the Republican Party. It would depend on how that hold sticks and whether he maintains it 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line. And that would have to do with whether he was visible in conservative Republican media circles and how much influence he still has over that. The party would likely rally behind their most popular player. I think that's still up in the air. But Jason, beyond that, why does he want the job? I mean, it seems like he doesn't really want to do it right now. This is the first time we've seen him in a week. He came out to tout Operation Warp Speed, but he hasn't really been addressing the crisis that has only escalated in the past few weeks. More and more Americans contracting COVID-19, more and more dying. It is out of control across the entire country.
Donald Trump has never really wanted this job. Donald Trump just wanted to win. Donald Trump just wanted to stick it to Hillary Clinton. He just wanted to stick it to Barack Obama. And here's the thing. Without an entire media ecosystem forced to pay attention to him, look, Fox News is one thing. But when the rest of the news outlets are no longer paying attention to him as much because he's not president, he won't be able to galvanize crowds the way that he used to. And since he has lacked any real interest in doing the job. Look, if you look at what happened, Mitt Romney didn't get the nomination in 2008. He ran around the country. He gave some speeches. He put together some policy papers. Most people who have a desire to run again, it's because they didn't win the party nomination, not because they had been repudiated by a large swath of America, including states that had formerly been red, have now turned blue to tell him to go away. So between not wanting the job and not having the discipline for it, again, I think this is just an extended mourning process. There's nothing that I have ever seen in Donald Trump that makes me to believe that he could actually mount a serious challenge based on policy, based on ideology, even based on charisma, that he could do something against Joe Biden in 2024, which, again, 4 years is a lifetime in politics.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.